There you go.
Awesome. And then just so I'm aware of time, you did say I have until 5:50?
Uh, you have it's 6:20 now, so
Yeah, I
you
mean
have
6:50. Sorry, I'm in a
yeah.
different time zone right now.
Oh, sorry, so sorry.
No, no, all
Yes, you
good.
have until quarter till or 10 till.
Okay, awesome. Well, hi. Well, I'm start off just by introducing myself. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and for letting me interrupt your afternoon course. My name is Geraldine Martinez, and I'm the admission counselor at Lehigh University. I always like to start off by sharing a little bit of what I do as an admission counselor. So at Lehigh, your admission counselor is the person that you contact if you have any questions, if you want to connect with them. Really, they act as the bridge between you and the university they represent. And then on top of that, not only do I travel to all my regions, meeting all you wonderful people, but then I also am the first person to read your application and put forth a decision. I always like to say, make sure to be nice to me with that said, but that's all just jokes. I'm going to share my screen, and in the interest of time, I'm probably going to keep the presentation pretty short, because I'd rather get to all of your questions first. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, awesome. So I usually like to start off with just showing some pictures of our beautiful campus. So we are located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We are located literally on a mountain. And this is, everybody tells me it reminds them of Hogwarts. I will let you all be the deciding factors of that. And then let me also, last but not least, show you my favorite place on campus, which is Linderman Library. It has been voted one of the most beautiful libraries in the country a couple of times. And so this is just one of the places that a lot of our students love to study. So now for the actual presentation. Okay, awesome. So at Lehigh, we like to say that our students are built for tomorrow's challenges. And some of the ways that they do this is through these 5 pillars. I'm not spending a lot of time on them here just because I will get to this towards the end of the presentation or throughout the presentation. So, like I mentioned, we are located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So we're about 90 minutes away from New York City on a good day, 6 hours on a bad day because of all the traffic. And then we are 70 minutes away from Philadelphia. I'm pretty transparent with my students on this end. We're not in a huge city like Houston, but then we're also not in the middle of nowhere. Like nobody's going to classes on horses, nothing crazy like that. It truly is a medium-sized city. It's a very residential area. I know you might have a little bit of difficulty imagining this because we have to drive everywhere in Texas, but this is a very walkable area, so you don't need a car. Most of my students walk everywhere. And then Lehigh does have a bike system, which you can rent bikes for free to get around campus. And then we do have over 15 plus cuisines walking distance from campus. We know how much students love food, so we always like sharing that fun fact with our students. And outside of that, we have a lot of coffee shops, we have grocery stores that students can walk to. We have a lot of retails that do a lot of like shopping as well. And then we also have an airport 10 minutes away from campus, which obviously is super important to all of you because if you end up at Lehigh, you want to make sure you can get to and from campus with ease. Oh no, it's not going next. Oh, there we go. So we are a medium-sized community as well. So we have about 5,800 students, give or take a couple. I always tell students that so something that I forgot to share about myself in the beginning of the presentation is that I am actually a born and raised Houstonian. I love Houston, grew up there, and when I was a senior in high school. Lehigh was one of the schools that I looked at and I fell in love with it. And ultimately, I did decide to complete my undergraduate experience there. So Lehigh is my alma mater. But all that to say, I went to a teeny tiny school in Houston and I knew that I wanted something a bit bigger, but I didn't want something too big where I felt like I was, this small fish in a big pond. But I also didn't want to keep running into the same five people all the time. And so I always tell students that it is truly the perfect balance of big enough where you constantly have opportunities and new resources and the ability to make new connections, but then also small enough where you find your footing rather quickly. We do have 78 countries represented in our undergraduate student body, so we have a pretty strong international student body. At the end of spring semester every year, we actually have an international festival where we lay out a bunch of tables across campus. Next to every table, there is a flag representing a different country, and then we bring cuisine from that country, and it's open to all students for free, as well as Bethlehem residents. And while you're going in between tables, trying different food from different countries, you're actually also playing bingo. And once you complete your card, you win something for free. I will not tell you all what that is. I don't want to spoil it. Um, and then we do have 49 states represented, plus DC and Puerto Rico. We are missing North Dakota. If any of you want to convince your parents or guardians to uproot your entire life and move to North Dakota, please stick around after the presentation. I cannot promise you automatic admissions, but we really want to change that number. So please, just see me after the presentation. We'll see what we can do. With that said, we do have 18% of our students identifying as first generation students, as well as 31% of students identifying as underrepresented students. And really, all of these numbers really don't mean much. I think what means more to you all is what resources do we have on campus for you once you actually arrive to campus, and how do we successfully get you to graduate, and then, next steps after graduation. And we have so many offices on campus, like the Office of First Year Experience, the First Gen office. We also have first generation themed housing for first years and second year students. We also have the Office of Multicultural Affairs and the Pride Center, and many more offices. So here's a little bit about academics. This is where I get a little bit into the nitty-gritty. So if there's anything that is not making sense, it's probably on me. So just, send a little message and ask me to clarify or to explain it differently, and I will. So we do have 5 colleges, but really you only have to concern yourself with 4 out of them, because the College of Education is for graduate students only. So we have College of Arts and Sciences, College of Business, College of Health, and College of Engineering. So we do have what is called an open curriculum. Basically, that means that when you are at Lehigh, you are able to major or minor across any one of our colleges. But then on top of that, every single semester while you're at Lehigh, you get 2 to 3 electives, which you can take across any one of our colleges. So for example, I started off in the College of Business, but my favorite class that first semester was called Introduction to American Horror Film. We literally watched scary movies as homework. It was the best thing in the world. Also, if there's anybody in here who loves telenovelas, there is a telenovela course on campus. You basically do the same thing. You watch telenovelas and you discuss them in class. And we also have a 10-to-1 student to faculty ratio. You're looking at an average class size at about 28 students, but I usually tell students that the further you get into your discipline, the smaller those courses become. Typically, once you're a junior, senior, you're not really seeing classes beyond 20 students per class. And although that means that you can build really strong relationships with your professors, something that I believe is often overlooked is the fact that you also are able to build really strong relationships with your peers and lean on each other as resources. Another really important and big part of Lehigh academics is the fact that we are a research institution. how that affects your education at Lehigh, it basically means that at any point while you are a student at Lehigh, you can start doing research. A lot of our professors are currently doing research. We have a bunch of labs which students can get into and do research through there. And a lot of the times they either join a professor who's currently doing research, or they can actually petition the university for funding to do some of that research. So this is probably my favorite slide. So we have a couple of unique partnerships. If you are at all interested in study abroad, drop a little emoji in the chat, because I'm going to talk a lot about study abroad in this slide. But basically, one of the things that a lot of students know us for is our study abroad program. One, because we send a lot of students abroad. We send over 50% of our students at some point during their Lehigh experience end up going abroad. And part of that is because we try to make it super, super accessible, both in terms of, making it flexible in your academic curriculum, but then also making it accessible in terms of finances. So I will share with you all a quick little story, but before I got to Lehigh, I had never gone abroad. I didn't even have a passport. And when I got onto campus, I was connected to this program called Passport to Success. Basically, their whole philosophy is that they really believe that every single human in the world should be able to have a passport and also immerse themselves in a different culture, because they know how fruitful that experience can be. And so they specifically work with like first generation students, low income students, or any other type of student who has faced barriers in terms of going abroad. And so I connected with them, and they actually bring US agents onto campus. You take your picture on campus, you do the paperwork on campus. It is a fully paid for process. And then once you receive your passport in the mail, they take you on a day trip to New York City, and then on a fully paid for 1 week trip to Canada. I hate to perpetuate stereotypes, but it's true what they say. Canadians are really friendly. And then another little story that I'll share with you all is that while I was an undergraduate student at Lehigh, I actually switched colleges 3 times. So I went from business to engineering, took that first math course in engineering and said absolutely not, and then switched over to arts and sciences. The last time that I switched colleges was actually the summer before senior year. That is not something that I necessarily recommend or encourage, but I like telling that story for several reasons. One is that I was a multi-decided student. I try to stay away from the word undecided, but I really had interests in a lot of different things, and I wanted a curriculum that allowed the flexibility for me to explore all of those interests, which Lehigh did. And then also on top of that, I also wanted to make sure that if and when I changed my mind, that I was going to be able to switch colleges, but then also being able to do it successfully, which I was able to do at Lehigh. I still graduated on time. I still graduated with my class. But kind of how that all connects to study abroad. So we have a study abroad office at Lehigh. You get a study abroad advisor assigned to you the moment you become a Lehigh student. And I reached out to him, and I was basically like, hey, I have all of these graduation requirements, and I don't see it being feasible for me to study abroad an entire semester. And then I also don't want to study abroad during the summer. That's really the only time I have to go back and be with my family in Texas. Are there really any other options for me? And he said, absolutely, I think you should do winter study abroad. And I was like, what is that? And he said, it is a month-long study abroad experience that takes place between the end of your fall semester to the start of your spring semester. And it is also a faculty-led study abroad experience, which basically means that any credit that you take abroad gets automatically transferred over to Lehigh. So not only did I get to spend New Year's in Costa Rica learning all about their sustainability efforts, but then on top of that, I also fulfilled all of my science requirements while I was abroad as well, which was really awesome. And then we do have a couple of unique partnerships, one with the Lehigh Gymnastics Center. So basically, this is an internship opportunity from students from any college. We send you out to San Francisco, California for an entire summer. You get paired with a startup company, and while you're there, you actually help them work on developing their product the entirety of the summer. And then the second partnership that's really unique is the one with the United Nations. Basically, this allows our students access to the UN in New York City. You're able to sit in on discussions, you're able to sit in on briefings, and then you actually get to meet and talk to UN reps. And then another thing that I like to tell students is we have over 200 clubs and organizations on campus. At any one time, your average Lehigh student is holding anywhere between 5 to 8 activities. And not only do I think that speaks to the fact that our students are highly engaged, but I also think it speaks to the fact that although we really value academics and we are really academically rigorous, we also know that there is a lot for you to gain from being able to be highly involved. And so we do give you flexibility and breathing room to being an involved student. Our most popular club on campus is the Cheese Club. It is exactly what you might imagine. It is a bunch of students coming together, eating cheese, talking about cheese. They have cheese fairs every single semester. It's pretty silly and quirky, but that is Lehigh culture for you. And then here are just a couple of pictures of our students in actions. The second picture on the bottom row, that is actually the financial literacy lab that we have on campus. It is set up to mimic the New York stock market floor. Students are welcome to take this course and learn all things about financial literacy. But then on top of that, we're really big on hands-on experience and then making sure that we're giving you the opportunity to put your knowledge to the test. And so Lehigh actually has an endowment set aside for students to invest into the stock market. No, you're not able to keep the profits, unfortunately, but it does mean that if you lose money, then it's not your money and nobody's gonna, come after you. Here's a couple more pictures of just our students, again, just immersing themselves in different kind of experience. The second picture on the bottom row is the gymnastics center experience. Third picture on the top row is our students at the United Nations. If you look closely, you'll see that their names are on the plates, and so they get treated as actual reps while they're in the room, which is really fun and awesome. And then I'll share a little bit about the first picture on the top row. So we are a Division I institution. That basically means that part of the culture definitely leans on sports. One in particular is football. We're really big on football. We have this really intense football rivalry with another school called Lafayette. They're about 30 minutes away from us. I'm not allowed to tell you that they are a bad school. What I will tell you is that they are on a hill and we are on a mountain. So do with that information what you will. But kind of as part of this week leading up to this game, we have what we would call a spirit week. And one of the traditions is called bed races. There's two rumors as to how this got started. One of them is that students were born on a weekend and they were like, I bet you we can build something to raise our mattresses down the mountain on. Typical college student. The second one is that a professor actually dared students to try to do this. I have my money on the fact that it had to be an engineering professor, but nonetheless, I digress. And now we do it a little bit differently, a lot more safer. We actually provide all of the materials as students. You get to build your own teams. You build the bed the bed mattresses, whatever you want to call them, with your team. And now students begin adding a bit of a twist. They dress up every year. So they've done Sesame Street, they've done Mario Kart, and last year, I believe they did inflatable dinosaurs. So I always tell students, if you can imagine these 20-year-olds in inflatable dinosaurs and these things that look like cribs racing through campus, that's truly all you have to know about Lehigh culture. Here are a few more pictures of our campus. So this is a few more pictures specifically of Southside Bethlehem. There are steel stacks that were shut down by the city years ago, and now it's used more as like this arts and performing venue. A lot of festivals take place here. The biggest one that you may or may not be familiar with is called Music Fest, which is the largest free outdoor music festival in the entire country. And we have over 1 million people come to Southside Bethlehem to be able to attend Music Fest. If any of you listen to Sabrina Carpenter, this is actually where she used to perform. So in the interest of time, I'm gonna skip this one. Here are just a few more Lehigh notable alum. I'm still fighting to get my picture up here, but nonetheless, I will share about some of these folks up here. So does anyone know who the third person on the top row is? Let me open the chat and see if anybody, sometimes I get some people who know it. Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I'll tell you all who this is. So this is CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum was drafted into the NBA his junior year while he was at Lehigh. He is a very engaged alum. He comes back to campus often to either be a guest speaker, connect with students. He'll actually be on campus this October. We say that he is a much better person than me because although he was recruited his junior year, he actually postponed joining until after graduating because he wanted to get his bachelor's in journalism. Had that been me, had I been seeing the NBA contract in front of me, I don't know that I would have done that. I probably would have joined immediately. But kudos to him for doing that. So here are a few of our rankings, just because although we are humble, we do like to show off a little bit. Most recently, we were announced number 15 for Wall Street Journal Best Colleges. And then here is a brief overview of what it looks like to apply to Lehigh. We are an early decision school, meaning that if you decide to apply early decision, that is a binding contract that you and your guardian do have to sign. We have 2 rounds of early decision, November 1st, which is right around the corner, and then early decision number 2, which is January 1st, along with regular decision. And on the left here, you can find, oh, sorry about that. On the left here, you can find all of our application requirements. And then not last but not least, here's a little overview of financial aid, and we don't have the cost listed up here, but I believe Lehigh's cost is sitting at around $76,000 per year. And I always like to bring this up because I know that it is a really big, scary number. I remember when I was applying to Lehigh and the cost was pretty similar. I thought to myself, there is no way that I can ever go to Lehigh. My family cannot afford this. And what I will share with you all, one of the really big benefits of applying to a private university is that because they don't rely on government funding, they typically have a lot more of their own money to give away. And so with that said, although these costs tend to be a lot higher, you're probably going to be getting a financial aid package that is a lot more generous. As someone who applied to Lehigh, that applied to both in-state, out-of-state schools, really expensive schools, really, inexpensive schools. The university that ended up giving me basically a full ride was Lehigh University. With that said, we did just announce the Lehigh Commitment, which is basically our promise that if you or your family, your family makes $75,000 or less a year, we are promising a full tuition grant. And then we also waive the application fee for all seniors in Texas. So here is just a few of the social medias that you can find us on. I'm really biased and will tell you to check us out on TikTok, but that is because I am on the TikTok team and do make a few appearances. And then I am going to open the floor to questions. I know that was short and sweet, but I hope I gave you a little glimpse of every aspect of Lehigh, and I'll start taking questions. Unless I did like that great of a job that I just answered everything. Oh, no, I didn't. I have a hand. Alexis, yes, go ahead.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Hi. I was listening to you talk about the foreign exchange program, and I heard you mention that we have like if we go there, we would have a foreign exchange advisor. Do
Mhm.
we also get like a regular advisor for like regular classes, or is that advisor just strictly for if you want to do um study abroad?
Yeah, great question. So amazingly enough, you do get an advisor just strictly for study abroad. Literally, their entire job is to figure out like what do you want to do in terms of studying abroad? What are the current barriers and how are we going to make this happen for you? And then with that said, you do get an actual advisor, whether it is an advisor major or an advisor minor. Typically, our advisors look a little bit differently depending on which college you get accepted into. For instance, the College of Business has an entire separate advising center. And so that means that we have separate advisors from professors who you get assigned. The College of Engineering is a little bit different in the sense that their advisors and professors are two in one. So typically you'll get an assigned an advisor slash professor. And then as you're getting further into your studies, you can switch advisors depending on someone who may be a better fit for you or add an advisor. Yeah. And so it typically looks a little bit differently depending on the college that you're in. Yeah, great
Yes,
question.
ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Any other questions?